Good evening and welcome to our viewers on RNN TV as well as FiOS 1 News. We continue our coverage now of the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. We have team coverage for you tonight from around the region. We're going to be taking you to all of the spots that have been hit hardest by this storm. And we're going to bring you up to date on recovery efforts that are currently underway. And again, thank you for joining us in this special edition of RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. And I'm Megan Vega. We begin tonight in New York City, where Brandy Hitt has been joining us throughout our hurricane coverage. Tonight, she brings us the very latest from Manhattan.
3 days after Sandy made landfall, thousands of families in Hoboken, New Jersey are still trapped by floodwaters.
It's really scary. We don't have that much food. I mean, we prepared a little bit.
While National Guardsmen rescue people stranded here, natural gas fires continue to burn further south in Manahawkin, where homes have been flattened.
Everywhere you go, you hear shh, just the gas.
For days, gas has poured into the streets because utility crews have not been able to reach the area to turn it off.
We never really expected it to be this bad.
Help and relief is slowly being delivered, but frustration is growing. At New York's Howard Beach and the Rockaways, entire working-class neighborhoods have been destroyed, and people feel they've been forgotten.
Actually, I haven't seen Red Cross, Salvation Army, FEMA, nobody.
It will take weeks to recover from the massive destruction, and parts of New York City are still paralyzed. Some subway service has returned, and it was announced today that power will be restored to all of Manhattan by Saturday. But with limited traffic into the city, lines for buses are growing, and people ordered to drive with at least 3 passengers are stuck in traffic, or they're running out of gas while waiting to fill up.
Luckily, I had this, canister in my car, so I just got out of my car and ran to the nearest gas station.
The Coast Guard is now working to bring more fuel into the city, and Sunday's New York City Marathon is still a go, despite criticism that runners will be traveling through areas devastated by Sandy. Brandy Hitt, ABC News, New York.
All right, Brandy, thanks very much. If you're just now turning on the power for the first time in several days, let's bring you up to speed on how the rest of the region is doing. All right, for that, let's go over to New Jersey first. Let's start there. Some of these numbers absolutely startling. These are some pictures that we're bringing to you after the storm. This, of course, is Atlantic City. The goal here in Atlantic City, as of just a few hours ago when Governor Chris Christie did update us on the very latest, was to get those casinos up and running. The problem, however, is that water unsafe to drink right there in Atlantic City, so not yet ready to open up those casinos. And as we go up the Jersey Shore, if you're just seeing these images for the first time with your power back on, this is some of the devastation your neighbors have faced. Governor Christie, President Obama touring some of these areas, and then we head up to northeastern New Jersey, right alongside the Hudson. Not spared either. Not at all. Jersey City, however, there are some good numbers, at least with power coming back to these areas. Hoboken, the same. The mayor in Hoboken actually recently was updating the media also on giving us some new information, saying that the water's actually safe there, but because there is no electricity, it's hard to get that water up the stairs, up to those apartment buildings. Always a good idea to check on the elderly upstairs, try to help them out. You saw Moonachie there and Little Ferry, similar scenes as rivers replacing streets, people using boats instead of cars, or cars when they can, coming up near to their grills. These pictures from the very beginning of the storm after it hit. Conditions have improved a little bit in most of those areas as we wait to see how people get back to normal now 3 days after the storm made landfall. I think that's it. It's just 3 days, and we have to remember that people are not forgotten. We heard a soundbite from a gentleman in Brandy Hitt's package there that he says he felt like he has been forgotten. No one at this point has forgotten anyone. And on my ride into work today, I can tell you I saw crews from Indiana making their way here. So we have some other images now to show you and share with you. And some of these images you shared with us, and we thank you for that. This is in New York, of course, Freeport, New York. You can see people trying to get through the storm, get to where they need to go. Fire Island was under mandatory evacuation for those people who did not leave. Well, they came back or awoke to see this a few days ago. Water everywhere as far as the eye could see. as the recovery efforts really just beginning to get underway along the Long Island coast.
And this is a scene all too familiar to all of us. The breach there and Sandy making her way ashore and breaching the roadways, trees down, power lines down again, Riverhead, New York, as the sea crashes into the seashore.
Of course, the pictures can tell you the obvious, the property damage, the difficulties along the beaches and flooding, but of course there is more serious news as the storm has hit.
We actually have some very sad news to report tonight. The death toll has actually climbed to 38. At least 2 more souls were added to that list today when search and rescue teams recovered the bodies of 2 Staten Island boys lost Monday as their mom tried to hold on to them as those storm waters came through. The 2 young boys were swept from their mother's arms. As I mentioned, those floodwaters rose around their SUV. They were found on Staten Island today. Also today, an elderly couple was found dead inside a submerged car. The city's smallest borough suffered some of the most widespread devastation. Those little boys, just 2 and 4 years old.
And unfortunately, we've had similar reports to have to present ever since Sandy began. Of course, another difficulty as for those people who have their families intact but still haven't yet to return to normal, getting the lights back on. We want to turn now to FiOS 1's Amy Rogers. She joins us now with an update on the very latest when it comes to power and where it's on and where it's coming back. Amy?
You know, Superstorm Sandy was exactly that, an extraordinary storm producing everything from wind to rain to even several feet of snow. And in its wake, 72 people are dead and more than 6 million customers still without power. Staten Island was hit hard by the superstorm this week with extensive wind damage and flooding. Hundreds of transmission lines have gone down on Staten Island. The National Guard delivering food and water to residents there today. Now, Sunday, Staten Island is expected to be the starting line for the New York City Marathon, but organizers are still working out how to make this possible. 38 New Yorkers died in the storm, 15 of which were in Staten Island. And New Jersey really saw the brunt of Superstorm Sandy, and as more power is restored, more than 2 million customers and businesses, people are lining up to fill up. The Obama administration is temporarily waiving some Clean Air Act requirements in order to get fuel more quickly to people in need. And the second largest refinery on the East Coast actually shut down in New Jersey Monday. Now, as Sandy made her way through our area, Pennsylvania absorbed the impact. 10% of the state's population lost power from the storm, making it one of the largest power shutdowns in Pennsylvania history. Throughout the state, including here in the Poconos that you're seeing, extensive wind damage, including fallen trees, flooding, and closed roads. 11 Pennsylvania residents lost their lives in the storm. Now, Maryland saw a variety of weather from Superstorm Sandy. The western portion of the state has seen as much as 29 inches of snow. The eastern portion of Maryland dealt with cleaning up the storm surge, putting a strain on emergency resources as the state dealt with 2 completely different types of disasters. And there are still more than 33,000 in the state without power. So you see some of those images there. There's no wonder it's going to take some time to get everyone back up and running again.
You see the images, you understand, you just want it to happen. The rational side, Amy, thank you. The rational side understands it's going to be a long process, but your heart and you just keep hoping that it's going to happen a lot faster than reality will allow it to happen. And
we want to go now to Ed Mangano, the Nassau County executive, who is joining us with the very latest on conditions that we were getting him in just a moment as we go around our region. Again, for those of you joining us either on FiOS 1 News Long Island, FiOS 1 News New Jersey, we're also currently on RNN, WTVE out of Reading, and FiOS 1 News Potomac, so we're reaching a very wide area. Some of the areas that we reference may be a tad specific for some of you who are not in the localized regions, but we want to give you the very latest on what's been happening primarily in the New York area as the storm made landfall in south central New Jersey on Monday. So the cleanup here obviously continuing.
So many of us affected by this storm throughout the region, throughout the country. So many of us still want to help throughout the region and throughout the country. We do hope that you stay with us again for our continuing coverage right here. We'll be back in just a few minutes.